Hi, everybody. I'm Eli Aguilar, and I'm very happy to have you in Decoding Yoga, the place where I talk about doubts, questions, myths that you may have about yoga. This month, I decided to talk about asanas, about postures, the third limb in the yoga system, in the yoga philosophy, because out of eight limbs, out of eight um, I wouldn't say steps because we have learned that we don't go one after the other one, but after out of eight limbs, after eight sections that we have in this system, asana is only one. And it's not the most important one, to be honest. The others are much more important. The yamas and niyamas that we dedicated a full series to talk about the yamas and niyamas are far more important in the yoga philosophy than poses. But in the West and now also in the East, people have adopted this idea of doing shapes with their bodies on a yoga mat is yoga, and that has created a lot of misconceptions, of course, and a lot of I- wrong ideas, and has put a lot of people off because they cannot achieve those poses. There are so many poses out there that not all of us are able to do. They're not accessible to everybody for whatever reason, for whatever limitation we all have, and also have created this halo around flexibility, elasticity. I hear my students when someone is hypermobile, hyper flexible, and doing all these um, big movements with their bodies, like, wow, how yogi, right, you are, or how advanced your practice is. And I'm like, no, no, this is not the way it goes. Yeah, it's amazing that you can do those things with your body, and we all strive to have a very strong and healthy body, but that's not the whole picture, right? That's not about um, yoga. Honestly, that's not what yoga is. So I decided to talk about this topic over and over again, so we all understand that. Um, if you have good and love in your heart and you share that with yourself and with others, that is yoga. You don't need to do headstand to call yourself a yogi. And today I'm going to be talking about two approaches um, that we find out there of how to do the asanas, because yes, I cannot deny that asanas is the door of entrance for majority of us. This is how I entered to the yoga world, through asanas. I went to an asana class and I fell in love with what I felt in that asana class, and I get curious and I came to do my yoga teacher training course at Sampurna Yoga in India. I learned about the philosophy and I adopted this philosophy of life as one of the manuals that I use to live a better life, to be a better human being, a better daughter, a better sister, a better aunt, a better friend. Sometimes I succeed, sometimes I don't, because this is a lifetime process. Um, but there are two ways. Uh, so, because majority of us will come to yoga through asanas, there are two main approaches that we can have towards the asanas. And one is the aesthetic approach, how the posture looks like, which is, I believe, that is the approach the majority of us have learned to have towards our physical practice. A lot of yoga teachers out there, unfortunately, is the approach they have with their students. All these classes about alignment and adjustment, which are great, but they cannot be only that. Is, for me, is the beginning, is the foundation, but then we have to move on. All this is based on the aesthetic of the poses, how a pose should look like. So what happens is we have books, and in the books we have pictures, and those are our references. And then we aim to look exactly like the person in the picture. So two things are going to happen there. Either we won't look like the person in the book because we have our own genes, our own body, our own patterns of movement, our own parents, and they gave us the DNA that we have. We have our story in our bones, in our muscles. We have the activities that we did when we were kids, the things that we didn't do when we were kids, the injuries, the accidents, the sports that we have played or we haven't played, all that our age, our what we eat, where we live, how we sleep, all that combined makes who you are. And nobody has exactly your same combination, not even your twin sister, your twin brother. You are two completely different persons. Um, so you will never look like the person in the book, in the picture. Or if you look like the person in the picture, you may not feel what the person is feeling. We will never know what the other person is feeling. And somehow, somewhere, I don't know when or how, especially to yoga teachers, some somebody said it or yoga teachers started believing that we know what works for everybody, and by giving the aesthetic alignment to everybody, this is how you should look. We created this idea that the yoga teacher knows better, knows what is convenient to me. I always ask my students, why do you practice this the way that you practice it? I don't know, my teacher told me so. This is what my teachers have told me. And unfortunately, what I have found in the yoga world, I've been teaching for many, many years in other areas as well. I have taught from, um, I have helped people to learn how to read and write, all the way to teach math and science for as a volunteer in a church, to teach psychology in university. I'm a psychologist. I don't know if I have ever mentioned this. So I was teaching psychology in university, and now I teach anatomy, and I teach alignment, and I teach a lot of things. So in all the fields that I have been teaching all my life, I notice that the teachers educate, right? The teachers give you knowledge and tools, and so you can develop skills. So when you have to solve a problem or deal with something, you will have the knowledge and the skills to do that, right? You don't have to, you cannot go back to your professor to ask questions all the time. You learn how to do it yourself. In yoga, I have noticed that yoga teachers don't educate their students. They just command, they just give instructions and do as I said, do it like this, and done. But we don't educate what a person or what a pose is doing in the body. And it's quite interesting because a lot of times we hear very romantic cues. Listen to your body, practice with awareness, listen to your inner wisdom, listen to your inner teacher. I'm pretty sure you have heard this or similar phrases in a yoga asana class. But if we don't educate our students, if we don't share what is it they are meant to experience here, what is this asana doing? Where is this asana working? Where am I supposed to feel? Where I'm not supposed to feel? What structure of my body is actually getting benefit from this posture? How are we going to tell our students, listen to your body? Listen to what? What am I supposed to hear? Right? We have lost this connection with ourselves. So we don't even know if this pain, if this discomfort, when people ask me, I'm like, I don't know what you feel in this pain or discomfort. You have to know that, right? I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, wow, this is the level of disconnection that we have with ourselves. So we yoga teachers, especially if you teach asanas, we need to educate our students. We need to tell them, okay, this is a posture that is going to give you this benefit, is aiming to strengthen this area, to stretch this area, and we are not supposed to feel it in this other area, because that means that we need to keep working on this other part, right? So we need to guide our students, and I always tell my students, go and teach workshops, open the space for people to talk to you. In yoga classes, people are always in silence, and the teacher is the only one talking, and everybody was like, ooh, quiet, right? So let's open these spaces of conversation so we can actually educate the students. Because from the aesthetic approach, we can say, okay, this is how the posture looks like. Let's all look like that, but we don't know what does it mean for everybody. And this is when the functional approach come into place. The functional approach is not how a posture looks like, is how it feels. And I believe that once we start observing our own practice and our own teaching from this approach, then we can actually get what we need to get from the posture, which is being in my own self, being in my own skin, to go inwards, to observe, to see what is happening. And that can give me even information of how I deal with things outside of the mat. I remember me having issues with headstand. I couldn't do headstand. I had the knowledge, I knew the mechanic of the posture, I had the strength to come up in the headstand, and I just couldn't come up. My teachers were surprised that I don't understand why you cannot come into headstand if you have everything, mechanically speaking, that is needed. And then I realized that I was afraid to fall. So one of my yoga teachers told me, then learn how to fall. If you are afraid to that, learn how to fall. I did, right? I learned how to open my, let go of my fingers, roll over my neck and fall, and see that nothing happened. And then I realized when I, because I knew and I understood the asanas as also a reflection of your internal world, I realized that for many, many years, majority of my life, I have been, I hope I'm working on that, afraid of failure, of failing. I needed to be perfect, perfect grades, perfect kid in school, perfect clothes, all clean, all organized, everything. And I had to learn that it's okay to fail, because when you fail in life, you actually learn from that mistake, right? So that was the purpose of that asana for me. So from the functional approach, we need to understand what is that asana doing to me, and that is as unique as you are. So the aesthetic alignment is needed. Yes, of course, because we need to understand what is the asana, how the asana look like, so I can put my body into a similar shape. But then I will invite you not to stay there and start moving towards the functional approach. Start moving towards how does my body feel here today. Maybe tomorrow will be different. How is my mental health, my emotional health, my psychological um, self getting benefit from this posture? What is this posture teaching me? What am I supposed to learn from this? What is this doing for me? Because again, remember, postures are only tools to serve your body, which is the vehicle to hold your soul and to guide and to carry the soul through this journey called life. That is the main issue here. So let's try to start moving towards that. How am I feeling here more than how am I looking here? Because sometimes we force ourselves into positions that are not healthy for our own structure. We are forcing ourselves, we're forcing our students to get into shapes that probably are not meant for them. Remember, last week we were talking that yoga postures are like dresses, and not everybody's going to fit in all of them. So let's give back to our student the responsibility of feel what you feel here. These are the options. You can practice this posture in these many ways. find the one that works for you. And the only person to know that is you, the person who is practicing in that moment, not the yoga teacher. Anyway, so thank you so much for listening. Next week, super excited, is going to be Christmas Eve. So I'm going to be talking again about this topic related to postures, related to the physical part of the yoga. And as I always mention, yoga is not about asanas, it's what we do off the mat, not necessarily on the mat. Have a lovely week, and I will hear you here next Saturday, Christmas Day, to celebrate our lovely being, and yeah, to just have this Christmas celebration together. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And I hope to find you again next week here. Bye bye.
Hi, and thank you so much for watching this video. After so many years of teaching in yoga teacher training courses, I realized that a lot of people don't understand exactly what yoga is, or they have a lot of misconceptions and doubts. And that's why I created the podcast Decoding Yoga. Every week, I share a new episode with you where I talk about cues, about postures, about yoga as a lifestyle, about these myths, these doubts, these ideas that we have been repeating in yoga classes, and we don't even know what they mean. We don't understand what those cues mean, and we keep repeating them. So we have repeated so many times that we believe they're true. So I hope you can join me in the next episode. You can watch the video here, or you can look for the show in any of the audio platforms available. And if you have a question, a doubt, you have heard a myth about yoga and you want some clarification, let me know below this video and I will be happy to create a program to reply to you. Thank you.